Okay, hey guys. So today's video is not a fun one. It's not. I'm just gonna say it. It's not a fun one. It's not one that is very typical to my channel, and it's not one that I really have wanted to do. I mean, I want to do it. Obviously, or I wouldn't be uploading it, but it's one that I've been putting off. And that's just because this isn't, as I'm sure you can tell from the title, this is not the most fun topic to talk about. And no, this is not clickbait. This is completely about what the title's about. Everyone has lost people in their life, and everyone knows what that. I mean, most people have lost someone in their life. If you're older, if you're older than like 20, you've probably experienced at least one loss in your life, which my condolences, because it's not fun for anyone. But when it happens to you at a very early age, it just shouldn't. You know, there's no other way of saying it. My best friend died, and we were in middle school, 7th grade, February 3rd, 2006. I don't really remember a lot before that. Like, a lot of my childhood is very blurry, besides like very specific and concise memories of things that happened with people. I don't really remember kindergarten, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. I don't remember anything before that very well. Just to give you a little backstory, we went to a magnet middle school. So that being said, if you guys don't know what a magnet middle school is, or a magnet school, it's one that you get into by lottery. It's not a private school, you don't pay for it, it is still public, but it's by lottery, so it's not by your district or anything like that. So these are all kids I've never met before. I didn't go to elementary school with 80% of the kids that I'm going to school with now, which is a little different for most kids. Usually you're with the same kids from elementary to high school. I went to elementary magnet school and middle magnet school, so I did not have this experience. I went to school with different kids almost every year. But anyway, that's not what I was just explaining what a magnet middle school is. So that being said, a lot of new friends, new people, new experiences, trying to fit in, basically. That's the picture here. I find a good core group of friends. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. 6. 5. And we all had exploratories together, and that was kind of like your gym, your music, theater, like your extracurricular, but not after school, like because it's middle school, you're doing them in school. But there was like a block period of time set aside for those classes. So they were kind of like the bullshit classes where you don't have homework, you don't do anything in them, and that's really where we got to know each other the most. And this was this core group of friends. It was me, I'm not going to name last names obviously, me, my friend Haley, Jackie, Lizzie, Brian, and Evan. Obviously, being named last, you guys can guess Evan was our friend who unfortunately passed away. Being in middle school, there's a lot of feelings, I'm sure you can see where this is going, that you get and you don't understand, and especially growing up in Connecticut, it's tough. You're under a lot of pressure to fit in. And yeah, so being gay was very difficult at that time because you don't really know what to say. Being in a magnet school was kind of like being in like Boston or San Francisco. Like, it's kind of the place where if you're going to be gay, it's better to be there, be it in a magnet elementary middle school, because it's more not as like cliquey, or there's no bias and no preconceptions of people. Everything is new to everyone. So luckily it wasn't as traumatic or like difficult for me as it was for a lot of other people. It more so was just I didn't really know who to tell. I was never ever bullied for it. In fact, no one really has ever been mean to me about it except for now online, hence my last video. But anyway, back to what we're talking about. So for the longest time, we were just goofing around in class. We became best of friends, and it was the greatest of time being with all 6 of us in all of our classes. And yes, 2 of me and one other friend in our group, Jackie, we developed feelings for Evan. We never talked about it with each other. We didn't disclose it. 6th grade goes by, great friends. 7th grade comes, still all great friends. We're in a lot of the same classes again, particularly exploratories again. But it was at that point where my friend Jackie was finally like getting the courage to finally tell him. Oh my god, I haven't thought about like this whole, like the whole thing in a long time. And forgive me for telling it now, anyone who's involved in this video, if you happen to watch it. That's why I'm leaving last names out, but it's hard for me to just be like, Gene and Bob, and it would just be unauthentic then. But so, Jackie was finally getting the courage to tell him at this point in 7th grade, and Evan had just broken his leg. So he's in crutches, and he's doing the dumb, like, he'll flip the crutches upside down and stand in the handles and like walk around on them, and we're all like, dude, is your leg actually like fucking broken? Like, you're doing all this stupid whatever. He was such a funny kid. So February 3rd was the release date of When a Stranger Calls. I'll never ever forget it. And we went to the movies, and that was that. Evan at the time was dating a girl named Amanda, and I don't remember specifically if they had broken up yet or if they were already, or if this broke them up. I think they were already broken up, because I don't think Jackie would have made a move if they weren't. But anyway, Amanda, my friend, the reason why Evan didn't come to the movies or go out that night was because he was sick. And my friend Amanda told me later on that she had called his house to ask to speak to him, and his mom was like, yeah, do you want to talk to him? He's kind of sick right now. And she was like, oh no, don't worry about it, I'll call him later. He died probably minutes after that, or it was happening then, and Amanda still, to this day, I'm sure she's told me multiple times that she blames herself, which, of course, if something like this is somewhere happening to you guys, don't blame yourself. There is nothing that you could have done unless you were there at that moment. Nothing. So don't ever think like that, because it will destroy you. That's not the topic of this video. But so for the longest time, whenever I would see her occasionally, because we ended up not going to the same high school, I would see her at like the skating rink or like the mall or something like that, or she would message me on IM, especially recently after it happened, like a year or two after it happened. We would message on AOL, on AIM, holla, and she would be like, she would just tell me how she still blamed herself, how she had been like, no, let me talk to him, his mom could have gone down, and you can't think like that. So anyway, let me just get into the details that I'm sure you guys are all wondering about, of like how it happened. And I'm sorry I'm looking away so much from the camera. You guys know I normally don't do that, but this obviously is a different type of video. If you guys have never heard of the choking game, good. But now you know. And spread awareness. It's not a game at all. It is something that is, from my research and my understanding, is not very popular as much anymore, and it is dying down. It is the act of self-asphyxiation, which is like strangling yourself or tying something around your neck, to the point where you are about to pass out, and then you release it, and the rush of oxygen back into your head, or like your lungs and whatnot, in your bloodstream, is very similar to being high. It started after Evan's passing. I did obviously more research into what it was, because I had never heard of it before, and apparently it was kind of going around and it was becoming a thing, and there was even a foundation for families who had lost children to the game, and that was really when it was brought to my attention and when I found out about it. So that's what it is, and that's what happened. Evan was playing the game, and he was doing it alone. He didn't have anyone with him to help him. He was also injured from his broken leg, so I'm sure he wasn't in the best physical capabilities to undo whatever he was. I don't even know. I don't want to think about the specifics of what happened or how it happened. And this is almost 10 years later, so even now it's just, I don't want to think about it. And so that's what the game is, and that's what had happened. Come February 6th, 3 days later. This was a February 6th. Was this a Saturday? I know I had off. It might have been a long weekend for some reason. I know I had off from school the day I found out. Oh, February 6th was the Monday we went back to school, and I found out on the 5th. I found out 2 days later. Haley, my friend in the group, called me and told me, and I straight up didn't believe her. She called me sobbing, and she was like, Evan died. And I told her, and I was like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. And she was just like, I have to go. And she, later on I found out that she immediately hung up with me and called Jackie or Lizzie and told one of them. So I had like another day to sit on this before we went back to school, thinking like, this can't be real. This is not a real thing. And this was before Facebook was popular, so I couldn't go on and look and see if there was a status or a tweet about it. So I went into school that Monday into the most, like, disgustingly gut-wrenching silent building that I've ever been into in my life without it being abandoned. Silence. And I walk into my homeroom, and Jackie, Haley, and Lizzie, we all have the same home advisory room, which is where you go before your first period. Advisory was what they called it. And their faces just confirmed it. It was the worst thing ever. And from that, we had to grow up overnight. Overnight. You have to. Nothing was the same since. So making friends was different. Making choices was different. Everything was different. And still, to this day, if someone fucking touches my neck or something, I can't. Wow, this is so weird. I normally never get this, I never feel this way when I talk about it. It's very easy to talk about Evan normally, to people I know, which is weird. I guess talking to you guys about it is very different. But anyway, so it kind of made me very numb, and now if someone in my life passes away, I hate saying this, I don't cry anymore. I don't. And it's not just from Evan, I'll get into more of it later, but that instance was really what took it away from me. Was getting upset about things and crying and emotion. I'm very bad at feeling emotions. I don't feel bad about things easily. I don't feel sad about things easily. It's very bad for me to feel bad for other people, and not in like, oh, I don't care about your problem. Like, I do, and I really want to help. Like, I know that what's going on in Syria is awful, and like all these things are awful, but it doesn't hit me in the same way as other people. Like, I'm not like sad about it, I just know it's a fact. And that's definitely something that resulted from that, which is a good and a bad thing. It made me much stronger, and I can deal with things a little bit better than I used to be able to. I'm not going to say I can deal with things better than most people. I hate when people say that. But like, from what I was, my coping is just so much better now. And that's definitely from having to lose someone so early. But, so, flash forward, that was the most awful loss that I've experienced, of course, because as I hinted at, yes, I did have feelings for Evan, which I didn't ever get to tell him. Probably wouldn't have, like, looking back, I probably wouldn't have, but knowing that I couldn't ever get to, if I had even gotten the courage, is what is so sad about it, aside from the obvious. Anyway, move forward a few more years, we are all in middle school again. This is 8th grade, and this either happened in 8th grade or the following year, but one of our classmates, Danielle Ortiz, she was suffering from, I'm fairly certain it was leukemia. She was losing her hair. I never got to know her, and she was very nice always when I would see her or talk to her briefly, and I don't, unfortunately, have that many memories of her, can say that many things about her, but losing another person just a year or two after was like, I mean, come on. It didn't even have to be someone close to you. It's just like, we are 12 and 13-year-olds. So, Danielle passed, and that obviously affected her close-knit group of friends much more than myself, but it was still just, it made me then think more about Evan, which I was I'm still not over it, which I was getting a little more past the just sobbing whenever someone said his name issue. So it's like we didn't need that. And not that you ever planned something like that, but you guys, you understand what I mean. And then either that same year, my timeline after Evan gets very blurred with the deaths. Deaths, plural, yes. The following year, or a few months after, CJ, one of these students that was one of our classmates in middle school, passed away as well. His passing was much less unexpected because he did have Down syndrome, and he was I think he was actually a little bit older than us, not in our same age range. He was like slightly older. Maybe, no, he was probably a middle schooler too. But usually people with Down syndrome can live until like their very early 20s or late teenagers, sometimes even a little bit longer, which is amazing. But it is unfortunately a very short-lived disease, so losing him in middle school was even early, and we all had kind of a, when someone has and he had very strong Down syndrome, so he wasn't necessarily as high functioning as that beautiful model who has Down syndrome, and she's doing all this like inspirational campaigning. Like CJ had an aide with him, Miss Zesma, bless her, who was with him at all times and helped him with his schoolwork and like just was with him all the time. So he definitely had it much more severely than, say, the model that I just mentioned. So his passing was very sad to all of us because he became like the friend that we all, at first it was a little bit of a burden because we were young, we don't understand Down syndrome, and it can be annoying when someone just coming up to you and is being overly huggy and just how people with Down syndrome are, just over jubilous. And looking back, it was so much fun to be around him, but when you're young you don't get it. So once we finally got used to him after 6th and 7th grade, it was kind of cool having him in our class. Like, we knew that he would always be there to always like chase you around or like hug you, and I'm saying with a smile now, because looking back you can't do anything but smile when you think about people you've lost. But then, yes, I was stupid, and kids are mean when they're young, and we were kind of like, get away, CJ, and so losing him was not fun. So move forward again, and now we are in high school, and we lose a couple more people who just went to my school. I didn't know them very well, and I unfortunately can't remember names. But then we had an actual act of violence which happened, and this was one of our classmates, Danny Valeda. And I also was not super close with him, but he was in my math class sophomore year for geometry with my other friend Brittany. And I got to know him in that class. He was a cool kid, and he never, ever spoke out. He was very quiet. Never had I heard him say a bad thing about anybody, and it wasn't even an act of violence. He and a friend were playing around with a gun, and it discharged accidentally, and he did not survive. And that shook our school, because everyone being all in the same district, everyone remembered when Evan died. Everyone. Letters got sent out to all of the parents. It was on the news. It was a huge thing, because for a middle schooler to pass away is kind of a big deal, especially in that way. So everyone remembered when Evan died. And this happening not too much longer after, and in the way that it did, was very scary to our school. The candlelight vigil for him was just, it broke my heart. His mother spoke, and yeah, you know where that goes. This seems to be a pattern here. Either someone gets in a car accident, which I know happened, drunk driving, tons of things. Connecticut just is a magnet for these types of things. Fast forward to just a few years ago, when I was no longer living at home. I'm done with school. I'm working, not at Hyatt, I was working at Gap at the time. My childhood friend Aurora, who I have known since I was very little. I knew her when she was born, because she's a few years younger than me, and her parents lived in our neighborhood. She suffered from a lot of depression in high school and a lot of bullying, and she passed away, unfortunately, from, I believe it was overdosing. And yeah, if you have ever lost someone to that, you know what that's like. Every story, though it's different, is the same. It sucks, and you just in that particular situation, you just wonder, like, what could have happened different, but nothing. So I mean, you can't look back and regret, you can only look back and move forward. I don't ever regret any of these things happening to me. If I could take any of them back, I wouldn't. You know, you become better people because of them happening to you. No matter how much it hurts, those experiences happen to you for a reason. And Evan's mother now has a new son who I have not yet gotten to meet, Jackson, or I've met him once when he was really little, but she ended up marrying my math teacher at the school, who was the #1 support for her when Evan passed, because he was Evan's favorite student and he was Evan's favorite teacher. So that Evan's passing brought new life into this world and a new relationship, and you can never look at any of these things and think, oh my god, if I could go back in time. Because if you could go back in time, you now wouldn't be you, and I would never give up me for anything. That's really just what I wanted to get at, is if you guys are experiencing loss for the first time, or the second, or the third, or if you've never experienced it, just know that when it happens, it's because it happens to everybody, no one lives forever. It's not something that you can avoid, it's not something you can run from, and it's not something you should look back on and think, oh my god, if this hadn't happened to me, I would be so much better off. Because in reality, we grow from everything, and everything happens for a reason. I am not religious in any way, shape, or form, so I'm not going to say it's God's plan or anything like that. But if you want to look at it that way, then if that brings you peace, then go for it, because everyone needs that. Everything happens for a reason, and even if it was something that caused so much heartache and tragedy for you later on in your life, it's a lesson that you can pass on to your children. If you had a parent pass away very early because of a car accident or something just awful to you, and you think, wow, you know, well, even though you're saying everything happens for a reason, why am I hurting so much now? Well, when you have a child, you can make damn sure that they are so aware of car safety, or anything like along the lines of what happened to your past spouse, or you could even go on to talk about it to spread awareness of it. I hope this video now spreads awareness about the choking game, because it's something that is an issue. You will grow, you will heal, and it will be okay. To anyone who is going through these things right now, my deepest condolences, because I know better than anyone that these things happen and that they suck and they hurt so bad, but they get better. And coming from me, someone it happened to when I was younger than 13 years old, I'm not even a teenager yet, and I've already lost 3 friends, yeah, it happens. So stay strong. If you guys want to leave any love in the comments or need any love, please leave it in the comment bar down below. I am always replying your guys' comments. I love reading them. And if you are new to my channel watching this for the first time, you're probably clicking on this because you just lost someone, and I'm so sorry. My heart goes out to you. I know what it's like. I know how it feels, and you will be okay. It gets so much better. You'll make new friends because of it. You will strengthen the relationships that you have currently because of it. You'll hold on to them tighter. And that's about it. If you guys have not watched my previous videos, they've been more talky related, so if you clicked on this video because you wanted a more talking video, I do have some recent ones. But if you're brand new to me, I'm a makeup channel, so in the future you'll be seeing primarily more makeup videos versus talking, but if you have anything you want me to talk about, I will. And that's about it. And I'll see you guys in my next one. Until then, bye.